We have continued to maintain strong focus on sustainability and have been certified with Responsible Care certification. Before I hand over to my team to detail quarterly overview, I would like to reiterate that our singular focus is sustainable and long-term value creation for all our stakeholders, and all our future corporate decisions will be aligned with that objective. This demerger will ensure that both the companies, that is MOL and us, have clear management focus and operate as per their business priorities. With this, I will hand over to my team for operational and financial updates, post which we will open the floor for questions. Over to you, Sanjay, who is our CFO.
Thanks, Maulik. Good evening. So, as Maulik briefly pointed out, Big Money Fine Chemicals was founded in 2007, and our core area of operation is fluoroalkali and its value-added derivatives. We have empowered workforce of 700 employees. Our team comprises of technocrats, financial professionals, and a strong team of advisors guiding us for our next phase of growth. I will touch upon our financial in detail later in the presentation, but to give an idea, we have delivered a strong revenue growth with an average CAGR of 21% and EBITDA CAGR of 15% over the last 4 years. Our outlook is quite bright, looking to a strong product portfolio. We are now moving up a value chain and setting up plants in India for products which are currently fully imported. One of our key strategic edge is our location. Our plant is located in PCPI region of Dahej in Gujarat, where we have 165 acre of land. These are significantly scalable facilities, and while we are currently targeting rupees 20 billion of revenue from here, this facility can easily scale up to rupees 25 to 30 billion of revenue. With regard to operational performance, we had higher capacity utilization across all the products on account of improved demand. Since we added capacity on our caustic soda plant, we can see increase in volume of 79% with a capacity utilization of 86%. The capacity utilization of chloromethane is more than 100%, and for hydrogen peroxide, we have achieved capacity utilization of 75% in the very second year of operation. EC realization for caustic soda increased 12% and sales realization for chloromethane increased by 40% year-on-year basis. With regards to the financial performance, revenue is up by 111% at rupees 290 crore. EBITDA was up by 124% at rupees 92 crore, and PAT is up by 107% at rupees 37 crore. With respect to expansion plan, we are well on track as of today and expected that all the 3 plants will start functioning by second quarter of FY23, that is next year. Currently, we have a long-term debt of 528 crore. The net debt to EBITDA is 2.2 as of today, but we are committed to maintain under 2.5x. Before I open the floor for question at Big Money Fine Chemicals, we are committed towards sustainable long-term value creation and have a strong focus on maintaining safe and healthy workplaces. This demerger is an important milestone in our company's journey and will ensure that both the companies have a clear management focus and operate as per their business priorities. We also believe that there could be a true value unlocking this process. With this, I would like to open the floor for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We will now begin the question and answer session. Anyone who wishes to ask a question may press star and 1 on the touchtone telephone. If you wish to remove yourself from the question queue, you may press star and 2. Participants are requested to use handsets while asking a question. Anyone who would like to ask a question, please press star and 1 at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, we will wait for a moment while the question queue assembles. Anyone who would like to ask a question, please press star and 1 at this time. The first question is from the line of Kamal Gupta from Sunrise Finserv. Please go ahead.
Thanks for your call and congratulations on good numbers. I just want to know what is the spend on R&D and are we raising only the debt for expansion or we are doing it from the internal accruals as well? These are the 2 questions from my side.
As far the expansion is concerned, we already plan up for 700 of capital expansion in the next 2 years. out of which comprises of projects like ECH, CPVC, and third phase of caustic, out of which 135 crores was already incurred till 31st March 2021. This year we plan to have outflow of 350 crores, which was partly funded from the borrowed fund and partly going to be funded in the tune of 100 to 150 crores from internal accruals. And rest of the money will be in the FY23 and FY23, yeah.
And what is the spending on R&D?
See, currently product portfolio what we have, majority we are buying the technology from the renowned experienced companies around the world. The ongoing R&D what we are doing to improve the process after taking a technology. So ongoing R&D expenses is not more than 2 to 3 crores in a year.
Percentage wise?
Percentage wise is very negligible right now.
Actually, it covers under the other expenses, administrative other expenses, where it's overall, if you look at the position of other administrative expenses, hardly 2% of the total revenue. So that covers that R&D portion also.
So the thing is that the company, the expertise of the company lies with the technocrat promoters and the professional staff that we have in the manufacturing and so our expertise is to identify the product, to identify the technology that we need to use. So that's where the expertise and that's where the actually thinking goes. It's not like a typical pharmaceutical where you will be having a proper lab for doing kind of experiments. But that might be happening down the line future, not as of now.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, you may press star and 1 to ask a question at this time. The next question is from the line of Deepak Poddar from Sapphire Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you very much, sir. Sir, I just wanted to understand something on the overall margin profile. Now we are getting about 32% margin, whereas 68% is currently chloroalkali, which is largely a commodity, and only 32% is derivative, and still we are able to garner such high margins. So some insights on those. So why is that so?
Yes, Mr. Deepak. Yeah, it's a good question because compared to our peers, you can see that our margin is little on the higher side. So you can say that from the beginning when we started our chloroalkali plant, we thought that it is completely with the backward integrated, which is a captive power plant. So in India, many of the players, they are not having a complete backup of the captive power plant. So some people, they have a power generation from the grid as well. So this is one of the major reasons. Another is operation efficiency in terms of the plant capacity utilization. So we have better than our peers. So that is one of the key factors compared to others. You can consider our EBITDA margin is on the higher side.
So the thing is that we are located in PCPIR, very close to the port. That is also helping in maintaining the supply chain at a very attractive costing.
Understood. So do you see that as a sustainable thing? Because maybe today the prices are on the higher side, the end product, but when the cycle turns and the end product prices go down, do you think that being a commodity, we can still garner such high margins?
Mr. Deepak, that is one of the, your question is right. So far, we are able to maintain the margin, but looking at the future, the company thinks that it is better to go for a value-added product, and that's how our strategy we have changed 3 years ago. And we started moving into chlorine we consumed in the chloromethane, hydrogen we consumed in the hydrogen peroxide. Now another derivatives which we are planning first time in India, which is epichlorohydrin, the chlorinated CPVC. So all are going to be the value-added product, and it is kind of de-risking and the sustainability point of view in terms of the EBITDA margin. So as a company, we are targeting to sustain our EBITDA margin, even though we will grow from here onwards to 2.5 times the size of the company in next 3 years.
Correct.
Still, we are able to maintain our EBITDA margin of 28 to 32%.
28 to 32%.
Yeah, that is the range we have kept it here.
And individually, can you throw some light like chloroalkali versus derivatives? So what is the margin profile difference between these two segments?
Mr. Deepak, that normally, we are not able to disclose. That is our company's internal policy. But it is completely integrated complex. So, whatever we produce from the chloroalkali, it is going into the downstream. So, and another thing is, I can give you the bifurcation in terms of the revenue, because when we cross 2,000 crore and when the epichlorohydrin and the CPVC will commission, the majority of the revenue, more than 50% revenue will come from the derivative segment, and the less than 50 will come from the chloroalkali only.
Right.
Instead of currently what we have, 68-32 bifurcation.
Correct. Understood. Fair enough. Yeah, understood. I think, yeah, that's about all the way best. Thank you.
से बात कर रहे हैं उन्होंने आप
Thank you. Anyone who would like to ask a question, you may press star and 1. The next question is from the line of Varun Sheth, an individual investor. Please go ahead.
Thank you for the opportunity. I just wanted to understand what is the gross block today. What will be the peak gross block when the expansion of 695 crores will be completed, and what will be the peak sales around those gross blocks?
See,
Mr. Varun, actually, if you look at the gross block, we had the gross block around 1,500 crore as of 31st March, without considering the expansion project what we discussed in our presentation, which is the ECH and CPVC and third phase of caustic. So that all these projects were comprising of 700 crores. So we are looking by completing of this project around 2,200 sort of gross block in our financials.
So by second quarter next financial year, it will be 2,200 crore.
Yeah, 2,200.
and also the third question that you had asked about the revenue. So by the time reaching to that gross block of 2,200 or 2,100 crore, our revenue will be touching to 2,000 CR.
Yeah.
So that would be 100% utilization of the gross block.
Sorry?
Optimal utilization.
Yeah, optimal utilization. So that will be like... Please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, please. So asset turnover, we envisage to be less than 1. Is my understanding correct?
No, you can consider it almost 1:1 kind of scenario will be there that point of time.
Okay. And what is the industry standard?
This is not based on the 100% capacity utilization. This is based on the optimum capacity utilization where we are running our plant, maximum plant. It is almost 80% capacity. This will be the scenario. Yeah.
Yeah. So optimum, and if we say 80%, so balance 20% would remain unutilized. Is my understanding correct?
That's correct.
We have to consider. Yeah. So we have to consider asset turnover around 1 or little less than 1. And if what is the general industry standard in asset turnover? If you can help me with that.
See, actually, if you see in that way, our asset turnover ratio actually depends on the product that we are into. So as we are getting into the value-added products and a kind of a specialty products like epichlorohydrin and the CPVC, the asset turnover ratio actually improves over there. But when Maulik said about the 80% capacity utilization, that is the industry standard generally anticipated. But that actually depends on the market demand at that point of time. So 80-85% is what generally be there for the chlor-alkali segment. But for the derivatives, it can go up to higher capacity utilization also. Like last year, we completed chloromethane. We utilized the 100% capacity of chloromethane. And even for this quarter, it is more than 100%. So it's not that 80% is standard, but mota moti it is taken that way. And on the asset turnover ratio, as I said, it depends on the product. So the value-added products and the derivative products that we are getting into it have a higher asset turnover ratio, and that's what will be visible in the return on capital employed. like if you see our FY21 return on capital employed is 16%, which is expected to improve down the line because as the EBITDA amount is also going to get increased as the value, as the capex that we have done will start contributing to the top line and the bottom line.
So, Mr. Varun, the ratio which you are talking about as we move on the downstream, because the capex requirement is on the chloroalkali side, but our all future strategy is based on the derivative, and as we move on the derivative side, so that asset turnover ratio will improve further. As Milind has said, the ROC, you can see whatever we have done in the last, even in the last year, all the expansion is commissioned. And this year we are going to get advantage of all the commissioning project of last year. So you can see the ROC improvement in the first quarter itself. We have reached to almost 22%.
Yeah.
Got it. So, sir, then so currently, after this expansion, still your asset turnover would be 1:1, and you said that you would be more into derivatives where your, asset turn would improve. So what is your long-term vision for the company, say, post this expansion is over, and how do you see the company, maybe not till FY24, where you have already stated for 2,000 crore revenue, but even beyond that, what is the vision for the company?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question you ask. So, as by 2024, roughly you can say that about 50% of chloroalkali, the caustic soda, chlorine, and hydrogen all put together, in terms of. So we are going to be the captive consumption for the derivative segment, including the epichlorohydrin and the CPVC. But down the line, we would like to more add and focus on the agro and the pharmaceutical intermediates, and not on the. So we would like to go as maximum we can consume chlorine, hydrogen, and caustic soda in-house for derivative segment, which can consume in the pharmaceutical intermediate manufacturing or agrochemical intermediate manufacturing, which is currently now majority of the people are importing from China.
Right. So our strategy will continue going forward also for the import substitution kind of products.
Import substitute and the derivatives. So that two segment is more focused in the coming down the line after ECH and the CPVC as well.
Right. And sir, couple of more questions. You said that since you are located in the Dahej side and where the port vicinity is there and all. So I think today our export is also very less, around about 5-10%, and our import is also very less, if my understanding is correct. So how do we want to give a message that the location-wise we are very good because port is nearby?
Okay, first of all, let me tell you, because one of the major raw material, like for chloromethane and hydrogen peroxide is chlorine and hydrogen, which we are generating from our chloroalkali. And for the chloroalkali, the major raw material is salt, which is coming from the 50 kilometers vicinity, and maximum salt in India, it is produced by the Gujarat, So that is our biggest advantage. Another thing is the downstream, and we are right in between the chemical belt, right starting from Ahmedabad till Mumbai. So all the chemical zones are around that area. So majority of the consumption, majority of the logistic cost is it is very optimized. Second thing, the product like epichlorohydrin, which we are commissioned in the next financial year, if you see, all our major customers are within 100 kilometers range. So this is going to be the biggest advantage what we have. Not because of the coastal region, but because of the place where we are located, yeah.
Okay, got it. One more question, sir, if I can chip in. Basically, you said that because of the captive power plant, you have the advantage of integration and all. And I think you have the coal-based power plant. So how do you see coal prices going forward? That is first question. Second question is, assuming you would have not had that captive power plant and you would have bought power from Dahej, then today your EBITDA margin is targeting 30%, then how it would have looked if you would have bought power from, grid and not you had the captive power plant? If you can throw some light on this.
Yeah. So As you know, it is a good question. Normally in the Western countries, the people who set up a chloroalkali plant, normally they don't have a captive power plant kind of concept. But in India, because the instability of the power availability and sometimes the grid power is very expensive because, there are a lot of subsidy to the farmers and other segments. So the burden goes to the industrial, the normal cost of the power which we are getting it from the government. So normally the chloroalkali, if you want to enjoy the higher EBITDA margin, definitely without captive plant, it is very difficult to sustain on a long-term basis. So that is the first philosophy. Second, you are talking about the coal price recently. Yeah, recently because of the freight cost, what is happening around the world, the coal price has also gone up. At the same time, the demand of caustic soda has also gone up. So the finished price of caustic soda is also increasing because of looking at the international scenario and the demand in the infrastructure worldwide.
Right. No, so my point was, assuming you are earning 30% margin, and if it would not have been captive, then what would have been margin-like scenario? That is point number one. And how do you see coal prices also moving in tandem with caustic soda prices going ahead, or how do you see that going ahead?
Mr. Varun, frankly speaking, we don't have idea when we are going to consume without power plant because we have not envisaged that kind of scenario because we expect always a higher EBITDA margin. So we always thought about it with captive power plant only.
That means
Thank you. I would request Mr. Sheth to rejoin the queue for follow-up questions. We would also request participants to please limit your question to 2 at a time. The next question is from the line of Kartik Sambandham from Unifi Capital. Please go ahead.
Hi, sir. Thank you for taking my question. I just want to understand the debt profile and the trajectory that we are planning for the next 2 years. So, what's the peak debt level that we are looking at?
Yeah, Mr. Karthik, with respect to debt profile, that we have a debt to EBITDA of 2.7% in FY20, which has been improved to 2.1 in FY21. Okay, but since we are in an expansion mode, so we're going to have a debt almost at the peak level of 700 crores, long-term debt I'm talking about. And with this also we are able to manage the EBITDA, debt to EBITDA margin of 2.5% or somewhere near to that.
So currently, FY21, the debt was around, long-term debt was around 450 CR.
450.
Which, because as we are doing a 350 CR of capex in FY22, it will go up to, so that 430 will go up to 700 CR at an upper level. And at that level, our debt to EBITDA will be around 2.5x. And from FY23 onwards, that will start going down.
So, can I say, given that probably we don't have any other expansion plans before FY24, so this 700, we are at least planning to reduce it to a certain level that you have in mind?
See, every year we have as the repayment schedule. Almost we'll be paying around 130 to 140 CR as a repayment of debt. So in that proportion, our debt will start coming down. And in future, also looking at, what I interpret from your question, that down the line also the capex that we will be doing post FY 2024 for the new project, that won't be that huge, and might be sufficient from the internal approvals of the company.
Got it, sir. That's great. And sir, regarding realization per ton question, I just want to understand what's the exact number or the ballpark number for hydrogen peroxide? Realization per ton.
Actually, we are not sharing the realization number product to product, so we don't do that. But on an overall group basis, you can definitely assume that because of our plant is the location in Dahej and plus all the the consumers that we are serving are close by, our realization is at the optimum level compared to the peers. And in that level, all put together, the margins that we have will be in the range, which is right now 32%, will be in the range of 28-30% down the line.
Why I was asking the question was, we saw like caustic actually realizations have almost in the international markets touched 30,000 per ton, and the last quarter was around 25. So this quarter has seen a very huge spike, almost 3-year high. So I'm assuming, could we assume that the related products like chloromethane or hydrogen peroxide have also had some upscale there?
Mr. Karthik, it is right questions and right analysis, but if you see last year last year our EBITDA margin is also on the higher side, even though the caustic was on the lowest level. The major reason is when the caustic is at lowest level, at the same time the raw material for the captive power plant as well as salt was very low. So EBITDA margin we focus, and that we would like to maintain around 28 to 32% as per our guideline, But yeah, as per you are saying rightly that the chloromethane and hydrogen peroxide, as our capacity is picking up, so definitely their value addition is increasing more in our ratios, and contribution is also higher side.
And also, as we have already specified in our presentation, the realization from the hydrogen peroxide has increased by 36% on Q-on-Q basis. So definitely, as we had earlier also said, that the industry then to whom we serve, like paper, pulp, and the textile, have actually started their facility, and that's where the hydrogen peroxide demand has gone up, and the same stands for the chloromethanes for the other industry. So the realization at that level has also improved.
Sure. So, I just wanted to understand a ballpark figure. For example, for caustic, you've mentioned it's around 25,000 or 30,000 per ton. So for hydrogen, is it around 70,000 per ton or 60,000 per ton? I just wanted to understand.
See, the hydrogen peroxide, normally in the people they talk in a different language, because normally we sell as a 50% basis, and 50% basis the current our revenue is you can say around in the 30,000 range. And so 100% if you convert it, you can consider it's around 60,000.
Got it, sir. Got it. That's great. So when it comes to chloromethane, do we say that does it have any price correlation with PVC, or it's a completely different product altogether?
See, it is a different product line, but normally in the western part of the world, they have an integrated complex like what we have created here. So mostly it is integrated complex along with the PVC, CPVC, and not CPVC but the chloromethane. So if they have a limited chlorine, then they give a priority based on that. So sometimes they decide, if they have a limited chlorine, then they prefer, depends on the product availability and the product selection, they produce more PVC or the chloromethane.
Sure, sir. And what's the ballpark realizations that we have here, sir? PVC, we have roughly around, let's say, 120 or 130 per kg, right? So is there something like that we have here? Any ballpark number?
See, both are very different products, It is because name sounds PVC and the chloromethane is completely different. You can't compare per ton or kind of thing. But the investment required for both the product is huge difference. So it is not a comparable, but it depends on that particular country. How is the scenario in terms of the demand of both the product normally?
Sure, sir. And just one final question on the coal. As you rightly said, the input cost was lower earlier, even when the realizations of caustic was lower. But then caustic has almost increased 100% year on year from 15 to 30. But the coal has even increased further. So, and there is no cooling off there. So, how do we eventually understand the margin? Because the coal prices have also increased and it's continuously increasing. So can we say the cost, we know that 60% of the cost is pretty much electricity or power, right, for the percentage of the cost. So could you give me some color more on the coal part?
Yeah. So Karthik, this is, I think you can consider in the majority of all the chemicals, because worldwide the infrastructure is growing. So the alumina production is on the peak. So aluminum demand is on the peak. So if the caustic demand is also on the higher side. At the same time, the freight cost is on the higher side. So as coal price has gone up, definitely the caustic demand has also gone up over the period of time. So definitely, as all the manufacturers, whoever produces captive power plant and the caustic soda, if the coal price goes up, they immediately pass on the benefit to the consumer, and consumer absorb it because of the demand is there right now. So definitely, to take, to pass on the entire thing, it takes 45 days kind of thing. But definitely, it is immediately we can able to pass on because of the high demand of the product because of the current environment.
Sure, sir. So just to end this opportunity, just want to understand when caustics were at the peak, right? Like in 40,000, 45,000 levels, the margins really shot up, and we've seen every other chemical and metal shooting up in the recent past. So is there any expectation at all from the channel check that this caustic prices are here to stay and probably improve from here on?
See, looking at the current demand, definitely the price will sustain for a longer period of time. But the price which you are talking about, the 45,000 kind of thing, which we have got it in 2018 and 19 time.
Yeah.
See, that is once in blue moon kind of situation. That is not a correct comparison. So definitely that kind of period you get once in a while and once in 10 years time in a cycle. So we cannot expect that will remain in the continuing. There is a chances of same kind of period in the future as well.
But you expect the current 30,000 levels to probably sustain and probably improve.
So that is absolutely right. But we feel in coming times, because the way all the costs setting up all capex for the chloroalkali plant has gone up recently. So people who have ordered in the past, I think they will have an additional advantage because the current moment and current prices of all the commodity has gone up. So the capex of majority of the players has also almost increased by 35 to 40%. Majority of the people.
Yeah.
So the people who have an infrastructure and who have already placed an order a couple of years ago, definitely they have an edge compared to the people who are going to invest in the future.
So Karthik, the most important thing here is in chloralkali, so the caustic soda is a cyclic product, right? The cycles keep on moving. We as a company, we follow on the EBITDA, which we have been talking all the time. That EBITDA margin has to be remain sustainable, and that is where we focus. Pricing can be 45,000 or 25,000, but our ECU, the EBITDA, what the range Maulik has talked about, in the range of 28 to 32%. That is what we focused on.
That's great to hear, sir. I mean, that's a very encouraging point, and I look forward for the future interactions. All the very best.
Thank you, Karthik.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Bhavesh Chauhan from IDBI Capital. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. So, sir, my question is on the sales part. We are very confident on the execution side. We are setting up a specialties plant. But what about the approval from the customers? Generally, what we understand is that for specialty product, it generally takes time. Customers don't approve it as soon as we start producing. So, but we are very confident in next 3 years we'll go to 2,000 crores. So I would just like if you could talk about how are the client approvals and what kind of opportunities and what are we trying to gain market share, or that end user industry itself is growing so fast and we have customer approval in place.
Bhavesh, that's interesting, and it depends normally on the product to product. It differs. In some of the products you don't take too much time for approval. In some products it takes time for approval. So, when we select a project, so we have been in touch with all our customers from the day we have selected a product, for the expansion, because after meeting all the key people who are buying this product, we met them and then we have decided to go ahead in this project. So that is one thing, so everybody aware about it, and our marketing team has already started discussion with all the customers, which we are coming in next 6 months time, 6 to 9 months time. So we are in touch with all the customers. But the product which we are planning to come, I don't think it is taking too much time for the approval, because none of the product which is going as a finished API kind of thing or finished agrochemical kind of thing, where you need a lot of trial and lot of approval from the regulatory body. So it is not the such kind of product that which takes a lot of time for approval.
Okay. And sir, on the execution side, what are the challenges that we see? Because these are like newer products and to produce those products at required optimum quality. Any challenges that we see?
Definitely, when you want to achieve a 28 to 32% EBITDA kind of margin, and when you select the product, the product selection itself is a big task to maintain such kind of EBITDA. But so you have to make a very unique strategy. So, this is first time we are planning to set up a epichlorohydrin plant. Definitely, we face a lot of challenge during the execution. I'm talking about the last year when the first COVID wave came, So, majority of the detail engineering and basic engineering, that kind of execution we have done completely online by taking help of our technology supplier, So those kind of challenges we have faced, but we have already passed that situation, So right now our all focus is going on the last part of our execution, and which is going on right now at the site. So now, the difficult part we have already passed. So I don't see any major challenges we are going to face in coming time.
Yeah. And sir, lastly, can you talk about a bit more about your competencies? What we understand is that one is logistics. Cost is much lower because you are in the strategically located. You have a captive power plant. But apart from that, what are the other strengths that our peers do not have?
Yeah. See, other players also might have, but first of all, I would like to give a big credit to our team. So we have a very excellent team. You can say that in terms of execution, in terms of the operation efficiency. So that's why we are able to maintain a higher EBITDA compared to our peers. Second, in the sales side also, we have always focus on the realization. So where we do not like to do a long-term contract where we do not get a value. So we do not normally maximum we do a contract based on the quarterly basis, and try to avoid a long-term contract, which is sometimes people in current situation where the raw materials are going up and down, you cannot pass on the benefit to the customers because of the long-term contract. So that kind of scenario we are trying to avoid. So and another thing, the biggest thing, the whatever we are planning in terms of the capex also, if you see, our capex is always normally it is very very in the lower side compared to what the industry standard it is. So our focus on the project execution is the highest level in the organization.
Yeah. Okay, sir. Thanks a lot, and all the best, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Darshit Shah from Nirvana Capital. Please go ahead.
Yeah, so thanks for the opportunity. So can you specify how much capex you did in this quarter out of the 350 crores we are planning in FY22?
You are asking for this quarter?
Yeah.
This quarter we have incurred almost 110 crore rupees. Again, this quarter itself only, comprising for 3 projects.
Okay. And what would be the long-term and short-term debt as on 30th June? You said 528 crores for June, right?
Yeah, as far as long term is concerned, the number is 528 crores, correctly you have mentioned. And as for the short-term loan, that is a working capital loan, it's around about 85 crores. As on 30th June 2021.
Okay, and you're saying your peak debt will be somewhere between 70 and 50 crore, and that probably would not include the 211 crore preference shares in that, right?
Yes, because that is a conversion.
Yeah, so that would be excluding that amount.
Yeah.
Okay. And when do we plan to pay that amount back to MOL?
See, we are in an expansion mode, as you know, that we are targeting a 2,000 crore of revenue. So currently, the debt is what we are using for the growth to come, and also the accruals are coming. So as we go down the line, definitely it will be paid off from the, as you know, the CPVC and the each plants are commissioned, they will start contributing to the top line and also the bottom line. So the free cash flow that will be generated will be on a higher side, so we will start repaying. So we will be paying in a near future.
And do we plan to have some sort of dividend payment policy to the shareholders in future, or is there anything on the making?
So yeah, we are also of that view, and we are thinking on those lines. So that will be discussed at the board meeting, and definitely we'll be coming up with something like that.
Sure. Thank you, and all the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of H.S. Dhodi, a retail investor. Please go ahead.
So can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, someone asked you about your strengths. You did not mention the land bank. And in one of your interviews, I heard you mentioning that your forefathers had good vision and they, invested in huge land bank. So I want to know that even after your expansions in 24, what will be the land bank available thereafter? And if you can correlate it with what kind of expansion and what revenues it could generate. Yeah, that's all I have.
Yeah, Mr. Dhodi, I think it's a good question for the future in a long-term point of view, So in 2007, when we entered as a company, started in Make Money Finechem Limited, that time we have invested in a 65 hectares, so almost 165 acre land. So right now, out of 70% is occupied. But another interesting thing is all basic infrastructure which is required, like a water reservoir, like a power, like a steam. The majority of the utilities, when we set up any future capex or any future downstream plant, we don't need to invest. It is already there, like admin block, like QC block, like R&D block. Everything is there in this. So just we need to add a manufacturing block. So in the future, I think, as correctly, if I emphasize that, in this complex, I think we can do more than, we can reach up to 3,000 crore we can able to sustain in this area, in this complex. Over and above, in this quarter, in the future also, we are looking for a land surrounded in this area, where we can we are looking right now for the future, for down the line of 5 years, we can, if you wanted to grow in the same area. So we are looking for a land for the future as well right now.
Okay, sir. So my second question is that, your erstwhile Megmani Organics, there was hardly any DIA in FII holdings by them in the Megmani Organics erstwhile. So now in Megmani Finechem, you think that will change? Because unless that happens, the value which you deserve and what, like other industries, Aarti or Deepak Nitrite or Naveen Fluorine, and that kind of a valuation and that kind of PEs can only happen if FIIs and DIAs come. So you think that is going to happen?
See, right now, if you look at the Make Money Finechem, our more focus is to work on the growth of the company and maintaining the margins and improving the return on capital employed. So that will ultimately help to reward shareholders. And what you said is right, but definitely that is something which will come in. In a future. Some near future, the investors might come in. But so our focus is on the business. The future, the investors or the institutional investors will follow once they find us attractive.
Okay. Thank you, sir. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is from the line of Priyank Parekh from Root Consultants. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you for taking my question. So my question is around the 211 crore of preference share debt we have. So we, as I understand, we have to pay 8% fixed dividend on that. And since it is a dividend, we are not going to get any tax benefit on that. So wouldn't it be a bit tax inefficient comparing that with the external debt? So,
Look, Priyank, very good observation of yours. With regards to 211 crore of debt, yes, it has been, now it's going to be part of the debt, and we're supposed to pay 8% dividend on that from this financial year onwards, and it will be follow as a part of our finance cost. But if you look at our number and if you look at the tax rate and everything, we do have the expansion back to back. We do have the match schedule over there. So, we have to pay the tax as of now for at least for next 3 to 4 years on the book profit only, which is in the range of 17.5% or something like that. So where in the book profit, ultimately, in the book profit, we definitely will get the benefit of this finance cost of 16 crore, about 16 crore, which is going to be shown as a part of finance cost. So with regard to that, I don't foresee any, tax disadvantage as of now.
Okay, yeah, good. Thanks. That's all my question is. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take one last question, which is from the line of Shania Nair from Value Investments. Please go ahead.
So, am I audible?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So, in the chemical sector, as you know, everyone is looking at the China Plus strategy. So, do we have any plan to expand in those chemicals that will benefit from this theme?
Yes, we do have, as we mentioned from the, our strategy, near-term strategy, next 3-year strategy, we already disclosed last year, and our focus is import substitute. So currently we are focusing which are import substitute completely, whether it is coming from China or other western part of the country. But as you rightly said, the way the government is supporting the manufacturing sector, lot pharmaceutical and the agrochemical companies are going to start manufacturing in India in coming time. So those raw materials are heavily depend on the Chinese manufacturing. So as a chlorine and hydrogen derivatives manufacturers, we think, we are also thinking to manufacture in those lines, and we are also focusing on those lines. So you can see that in the down the line, we will think about that as an import substitute for the specialty companies in India, which are coming from China.
Okay, sir. And so, do you have any inorganic growth plans in the future?
See, currently the line what we are into, we already have a plan to grow in that segment because there is a demand. So after 3 years, if we find it is not, and we will have a surplus cash based on the epichlorohydrin and the CPVC cash flow. So we might think that point of time, but currently in next 2.5 to 3 years, we do not have any plan of inorganic growth.
And also on those lines, the project that we look into should be feasible enough and should be in line with the margins that we are making. So it's not that we have cash, so we want to do it. It should make sense for the business to grow.
Okay. Thank you, sir. That's it from my side. All the best.
Thank you.
Thank you. As there are no further questions from the participants, I now hand the conference over to Mr. Kushal Saparkar for closing comments.
Yes, good evening everyone. Kushal Saparkar here. I'm extremely thankful to all people who have joined this call, and without your effort and support, we could not have made the wonderful debut on the Sensex. Fluoroalkyl Industries is a basic building block of chemical industry, and as we have been saying and committed towards maintaining EBITDA in the range of 30%, committed towards setting up downstream products that will not add value in the top and bottom line, but also it will become import substitute for our nation. 2 upcoming projects are happening first time in India, and that will give us the first move advantage. We have dedicated focus on ESG also. By doing so, It will help us in maintain the top position fluoroscopy industry in India. We look forward for such support from you, and if you have any question, then please get in touch with us. With this, I would like to say goodbye and be safe, and thank you very much.
Thank you. On behalf of Go India Advisors, that concludes this conference. Thank you for joining us, and you may now disconnect your lines.